So second week doing this ride, Alex's group ride. We got here early, set up, ready to go. I think I'll be more comfortable in route this week because I know it a little bit better. So do the corners and stuff a little bit different. There's Stefan. Stefan said he ready to roll.
Hey, we ready to get after this morning, baby. Early morning.
That's right. So we'll check in throughout the ride, see what's up. Alright, so this is week 2, or my second attempt doing this Ride.84 group ride. You've just listened to a brief conversation between Stefan Logan and a gentleman who didn't know that Stefan Logan is a trainer, a coach, a former NFL player, and generally just a beast. And apparently he got on Stefan's Instagram page and saw what Stefan was all about, so it was actually cute to hear that. Anyway, as we roll on here, we get in a position. One of the reasons why I decided I was going to do a second voiceover on the group ride was because there's some things that changed that were a little bit different on this ride than last time. First thing was that the pace of the ride was faster, and it was faster sooner than it was last year. By the way, that's Stefan just coming into the frame in a floral jersey on the left-hand side. I could call it pink. I'm sure he wouldn't mind, because I know it's love versus cancer. The second thing about the ride is there were some issues with it not being as what I would call smooth and orderly. It breaks down a little bit in certain areas, and I'll point those out. And I think part of the reason why that happens is, and this is inevitable, is that in any group ride, you have guys who started out as C group who progress up to B group, eventually will make their way into A group, or at least attempt to do the A group ride. And I know that happened for a fact just from certain conversations that I overheard. Nothing wrong with that. That's just a natural progression of what happens with cycling. But aside from encouraging a person in terms of their physical abilities, or come on, keep pushing, you can do it, the experienced cyclist, it behooves us to point out things that newer riders are doing that they could do and should do better for the safety of everybody, and also for the smoothness of the group ride. Here's Casey joining the group in the orange on the right hand side. And Stefan is letting him know that we also have another friend here on the ride, Ozzy's first time actually doing a group ride, or certainly a fast group ride of this size. Ozzy's exact words to me after the ride was, he's hooked and he's going to be out here every Saturday. It's definitely a rush when you get it right. Here we see some of the same kind of stuff that happened last week. People haven't seen each other all week, saying hello, chit-chatting, what's going on, how's your week, etc., etc. That's part of the reason why we ride as a group, is the fellowship we get to have. We develop friends. You see a friend you haven't seen all week, you want to greet. So the first thing I'm going to explain is something that happened as we go around this corner. There's a rider in front of me. Very strong rider, rides good, straight and steady. As we go around this corner, for some reason I came out of the corner with more momentum than he did. And as we're accelerating, I continue to carry my acceleration, my momentum of accelerating, and I just kind of like, I go past him. I wasn't hitting it hard or anything like that, but whenever you have an opportunity to accelerate coming out of a corner, if there's room for you to go around a person, go around them. And here's why. If I were to hit my brakes, I'd be taking energy and momentum away from my ride, and I would have to accelerate again to get, whenever he gets up to where the group is. So as long as you can do that kind of stuff without disrupting the harmony of the group, without offending anybody or doing anything that endangers anybody, it's not a bad idea to do it. So again, I wasn't going to hit my brakes, slow down, then to start accelerating again. And one of the things that I'll point out at this point is, you watch Stefan. Stefan's really been coachable and taking notes and learning how to pedal smoothly. And he's sitting here pedaling. Every once in a while he'll ease off a little bit. He's not doing like what some of the other riders around him are doing. They're pedaling and coasting. They're freewheeling. Freewheeling like this. It's not the best way to handle yourself in a pace line. Especially you see the people in front of you. Everybody's pedaling steadily. If you're pedaling and you're freewheeling, you're pedaling and coasting, you're pedaling and coasting. You're actually affecting the dynamics of the group. Riders always point out other riders that we're coming up on that are moving a little bit slower. It's always appreciated. Hand signals, calling out with your voice, always appreciated, always considered, always definitely a part of good group dynamics. Okay, so that's the first kind of high speed kind of section kind of thing. And this is go time. Pleasantries and chit-chatting and all that stuff is over. And we get a little bit of a conference going on here in front of me. I'm watching the gap in front of me. I'm watching these guys. This guy, he sees it. He comes around all of us and he slots it in front of them. And I'm watching it because as soon as that thing stretches out to the 2 bike lengths, as these guys are sitting there talking, I'm going right in there. And the reason is I guess it's not an offense to anybody or anything like this, but in group rides especially, the speed is up. It's time to pay attention. This isn't a time for socializing or anything like that. So that gap is growing, and I just make my way into it. this stretch. We just ride it out at a good clip. Stefan is next to me. He's making some observations about some of the people, what they're doing, some of the things that he's noticing that's different as well. Any information that I have that I can share with him, I'm sharing with him. We're getting ready to come up here on a corner, and again, I study the people who are around and make determinations, because we're getting into a section where we're getting ready to do a number of turns. So really nothing to report. We come off of Flamingo Road South, heading at a fairly high rate of speed, and we're getting ready to turn and go through Southwest Ranches. Everybody yells, right turn, and you hear the brakes squealing, you know something's going on. But again, pay attention. Always make sure that you know what's going on with the group and people around you. By the way, I should say this. I don't ride with a computer on my bike. I don't have a speed sensor, cadence. I don't have any of that stuff on my frame where I can see how fast I'm going or anything like that. The reason why I don't is because I'm not training for anything. I ride largely on feel, and I'm not saying that to say that you shouldn't have that stuff on there. What I'm saying is that stuff should not be a distraction to your riding. A lot of times you'll find people looking down to see what's their watts, how fast they're going, what's the average speed in a group. It's just things that you don't do. You need to be alert and focused. Anything can happen in a split second. A person could go down, a bottle could fall. Somebody could point out a pothole, and if you're sitting there looking at your computer or your data in that split second, that could be a problem. So I'm always on high alert. My data, as inaccurate as it is in my phone, in my jersey pocket, and that's just how I roll. So we're going through Davie, Southwest Ranches. Nothing happening, nothing to report. I cut a lot of the video out because there's really nothing going on. I actually had over 2 hours of footage. So just in the interest of time and expediency, I kind of, moved along to the stuff that I felt was of more interest or more of a teachable moment. So we're getting ready to get back on State Road 84. This is the part of the ride where the ride gets staged to pick up. It's not that it picks up here. We're getting ready to go down here. We're going to make a U-turn, and when we make a U-turn, we have about 2 miles before the ride is supposed to take off. Kind of like their sprint section, but for whatever reason this week it got fast earlier. So you just saw Casey coming into the frame with me over on the left-hand side in that beautiful gold Orbea. Here we are, we're getting ready to make that U-turn, and after we make that U-turn, it's like, shots fired, and the group just takes off. And you'll see it gets a little bit scraggly as opposed to the organization that we had last week with 2 pace lines. So the ride leaders do a great job bringing us out of the corner, bringing the speed up gradually. They realize it's a big group. We're not trying to shell anybody coming out of corners. These guys are trying to get sorted on the right-hand side with Casey and Stefan. And we've got a double pace line. All is well at this point. Double pace line rolling just like we were rolling before. So one of the things that starts happening at this point is people who go for the sprint started moving up a lot earlier than normal. I really don't know why. And in a short little bit here, you're getting ready to see an example of me being kind, me extending kindness and grace. As somebody pulls up on my right, couldn't quite figure out what they were doing, but again, you'll see kindness displayed right here. So he's here, he was on my shoulder for a while. Don't know what the deal was. He really should have been right behind Casey because both lines are moving at the same speed. When I felt him on my shoulder, I just eased off a little bit and let him get into the slot. I'm not in a race, I'm not looking to bump shoulders with anybody or anything like that. And here we go, he's moving back over onto the right hand side. The lady right here, she doesn't like that, she points it out. And just something scraggly happened here. I couldn't quite figure out what it was. It's almost like we almost went into a single pace line. What I decided to do at this point was, I know the group is going to reform when we get up at Markham Park, and I'm not worried about, I'm feeling good, so I'm not concerned about getting dropped or anything like that. I'm just kind of watching what's going on. I sit back a little bit. I'm not riding aggressive. I'm just, I'm following wheels, and I'm comfortable because I'm in the draft, so I'm good. So some of the dynamics that we have happening here, even if it's for a brief moment, there is group riding where you're riding like you're in a pace line, and then there's like Peloton style riding. And some of the stuff that's happening here is actually like Peloton style riding, where it's not two formal lines. It's just, get in where you fit in kind of thing. And I was actually surprised that this happened in this group at this point. So again, people kind of all over the road, and I'm not stressing. I'm actually perfectly fine with everything that's going on, and just waiting for it to settle back down, because it will. Light up. Everybody pulls up, and one of the things that I do is in anticipation of what I know is getting ready to happen next, I position my bike over into the left lane, wait for a little gap to go. I get over onto the left side because that's where I want to be going down State Road 84. So green, go, go, go. So we're off from the light, and these two young ladies right here, one of them is encouraging the other one. They're having a little bit of a chit chat, and as that's happening, there's a gap that's growing. So I make the decision that before this gets bad, she starts accelerating, but she's left a little bit too late. She's on the pedals. I just gas and go past her. Again, I'm not interested in any last minute heroics, so I just close this down right away. The reason is the speed's already up, and I know it's getting ready to get faster. So here last week, while we were going 25, 26 miles an hour steady, I think part of it had to do with the position of the wind, where the wind was blowing at our backs. We had a little bit of a tailwind. It's kind of like a cross tailwind. But here we're showing 26. We're actually doing, we're accelerating. We're going 27, 28, 29. We're gonna be hitting 30 on here in a minute, and it just kind of stayed at 30 for a long time, which was different for this group because that's actually not the pace that they're supposed to be riding at. So I decided I'm gonna get comfortable, and one of the things that you're gonna see is you're gonna start to see people start tapping out over on the left lane. Here's Casey. Casey's gonna swing off, move back. The other thing is that today, for some reason, it was extremely hot. It was very hot. I easily went through both water bottles. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with me, and I actually went through 2 gels. So I'm using all my nutrition. I am in my drops. I'm very comfortable. I'm shielded from the wind. I'm on a good solid wheel, just going steady. If you watch the rider on my right, he's in his drops, and if you look at his saddle, look at where his butt is in proportion to his saddle. It actually looks like he's sitting on the nose of his saddle, and that's something that you can do that helps with your pedaling. Whenever you're in the drops, whenever the speed is really up, you've got to hold a high cadence. When you get down in the drops, pull your body forward, get your butt on the tip of the saddle. It helps with your pedaling. It helps you to get the power down. It helps you to keep a smooth pedal stroke. It's called getting on the rivet. You hear guys who've been riding a long time talking about being on a rivet. That's what being on a rivet looks like right there. You can't see me, obviously, but I'm actually doing it. I'm on the tip of my saddle. I'm in my drops. My hands are kind of in the hooks, elbows slightly bent. You can tell by looking at my shadow right down there. So one of the things that I said is you're going to see people coming off the right lane. Some people are getting shelled. Some people are taking their stint on the front and they're just moving off. But I'm actually extremely comfortable right where you see me. Now the gentleman taps out on the right hand side. Again, the speed is up. One of the things that happens right now is a young lady, she's right next to me, and I can tell that she's working because I can hear her breathing. You guys can't see her, she's not in the frame yet, but she's right next to me. She's right on my hip, and I can hear her breathing. If you look down to the shadow, you kind of like see the person next to me, their head is bobbing a little bit. And as that gap right there starts to grow, when the next person swings off and she gets right next to me, there's going to be an acceleration right in front of her that she really can't do anything about. But I pay attention to this kind of stuff when I know that a person is in a little bit of distress, they're hurting a little bit, because either it's going to affect my ride one way or another, or it's going to affect the people behind. So she comes up right here next to me. You're going to see her wheel come into the frame right here. And she gets real close to me. You can look at the shadow, and I'm going to put my hand on her back because she cannot close that gap. And I'm just going to give her a little push right there. Not to get on a wheel in front of me, but I just push her into the gap of where she was, that she couldn't close. So she gets back on a wheel, and just so you know, sometimes all it takes is just a little push on a person's back. Obviously, you don't do that if you're not comfortable with it. But it's just a way to kind of like save a person's ride a little bit. So here we go. We're riding, we're pace lining. This is a gentleman that very early in the video I went around him because I was carrying more momentum than he was into the corner, so I'm on his wheel. Great wheel to be on. Good steady rider, strong rider. He just hits it really, really good. But as you can see, I'm third wheel. Now I'm second wheel. And it's only a matter of time before it's my turn to ride the front. Again, just like I shared with you guys last week, I'm not super pumped about my level of fitness at this point. It's progressing, it's getting a little bit better. But you'll see what happens when I get up here. I'm gonna get up here and do a turn. And one of the things that I try to avoid doing, if you're on a wheel, you're on a wheel. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you're behind, 2 or 3 wheels. Sometimes it can make a slight difference if you're behind, if your third wheel is supposed to be in second wheel. There's less wind that you're dealing with, the more people who are in front of you. But I don't pull out of the pace line where somebody's going to have to close a gap unless I'm distressed. And even when that happens, I'm going to try to do that in such a way that the person behind me doesn't have to work hard to close a gap. So as he gets ready to pull off right here, when it's my turn to pull, I'm just going to move up into position. No surges. I just get up there. A couple pedal strokes. And I'm going to sit here. And we're really moving. The thing is, we're moving and we're moving riding into a headwind. I take my pull and I smoothly pull off. I'm done. No big old long turn, no mucho macho pull, because I'm not going to put myself into distress. If somebody feels like they can do a 2-minute pull, that's great. I did a 15-second pull because that's what I felt like I could do and maintain my power and not get distressed. So I slot back in, which all that means is that I'm going to have to pull again. The gentleman that's in front of me right now, he's fighting his bike. That's what I call a bike fight. So that he's riding close to on the limit because he's broken his form. One of the things that I try to not do is I try to not break form. Again, this pull is even shorter. I want to get the whole group in front of me as we get ready to round a couple corners. We're going to go through a little bit of a neighborhood community and then get back on it. So I'm going to go to the back to kind of recuperate. Form. I try to hold my form. The way that I look at 22 miles an hour when we're riding nice and steady is the same way that I look at 29, 30 miles an hour when all heck is breaking loose. And for me, it's important to maintain my form because I feel comfortable pedaling that way. If I've got to get where I'm rocking and rolling and I seem like I'm fighting the bike, that's not a good look for me. It's not a good position. It definitely means that I'm not having a good time. So I try to avoid doing that. As I come back here, I'm looking for my friends. I'm looking for Casey and Ozzy. I think they both did a shorter loop. There is Hugo. Hugo's a sprinter. I've ridden with Hugo many times in group rides, and Hugo was encouraging me to hang in there, stay in there, don't give up now, all that kind of stuff. I wasn't, I'm not getting dropped at this point. I was just, moving back just to save some energy. So, home stretch right here. We're going to ride back home into a headwind. One of the things that I realized at this point of the ride, just because of the way how people were positioning themselves, the way how they're pedaling, and the way how the speed keeps going up and down, up and down. By the way, again, don't pay attention to the speed metrics. It's saying, 28, 29, 30, 31. We're not doing that. I guess it's just making up for what it didn't do on the other side. It's got to average it out. One of the things that happens here is everybody's tired. I know everybody's tired. It's hot as heck. It's been a hard, fast ride, and I'm still fairly comfortable. I did a couple things where I could kind of like put some pressure on my leg, like press down on the pedals hard to see how I felt, to see if my legs were going to respond like with a pre-cramp, and it didn't, so I know I'm good. So I'm just focusing on bringing it home, and everybody here, I'm telling you, is in survival mode. So nothing major to report. The bike that I ride, I am on a factory direct Chinese manufactured frame. It's made by a company called Workswell. It's called Workswell WCBR 147. It's their endurance frame. It's actually a lightweight climbing frame. The frame out of the box was 785 grams, very lightweight. My bike weighs approximately 14 and a half pounds. It's fitted out with Campagnolo Super Record 11. My wheel set, I used to have zip 303s in the front, zip 404 in the back, tubular. A few months ago, about 5 or 6 months ago, I went to Fulcrum Racing 1s. I found that those wheels actually respond better for the riding that I do down here in South Florida. My cockpit is a Dacia Superleggera, bar and stem seat post, and my saddle is a Cell Italia SLR Kit Carbonio. It's a nice bike. The reason I went that way is because I just wasn't going to shell out $4 grand for a lightweight carbon frame and then kit it out with the components that I want. I did a lot of research on Workswell in the frame that I bought before I bought it. There are forums that talk about those types of frames, and you can learn a lot. People post reviews about their bikes and their experiences with it. I spoke to the factory probably about 6 months before I pulled the trigger, but prior to that, I followed that bike and the research on that bike and people's reviews on that bike for about 1.5 years, 2 years before I bought it. The previous version of my bike was called the FM066. So they made some changes with the 147, stiffening up the frame in the bottom bracket. So it's a sweet riding frame. Probably post a picture of it right at the end of the video. That's Hugo. Hugo is done. And again, people are just trying to get back to the shop. Last week, very strong, rode very well again this week. Again, I'm still comfortable. I didn't really think anybody was going to sprint, maybe just a little bit of an acceleration as we bring it on home. So that's it. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video, the commentary. If the next time I come out and do one of these, we have stuff that's worth me actually sharing or commenting on, or I find something marketably different, I'll definitely get on and share information again. So thanks for watching the video, guys.
Nothing like last week.